change of tact. Listener, dear listener, brace yourself. It's going to get a little bit hot and heavy now.
Oh, God.
I need to speak to you, Mr. Friend, about someone on Strictly Come Dancing. As a background,
Ellie.
As a background, a month, 6 weeks ago, I was sitting with Phil and our dear friend Jeff and Dawn and Phil's wife Sue, and I mentioned that Ellie was going on Strictly, and Phil and I really went for it. We had a disagreement. Jeff piped up, said that should be a podcast. So I've saved it up. Now the difference is Ellie Simmons, who has dwarfism, she's a Paralympian, is on Strictly Come Dancing,
and she's been on our pod.
Yes, she has been on our podcast. In terms of different disabled people being on the show, there have been differently disabled people with amputees and so on, but Ellie is full on. I mean, you can see a physical difference, and there is an absolute difference. So when we talked about this last time, Phil, 90% of me got a bit moody with you. I must confess, 10% of me was upset. I was upset because you had a fear. Now, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. What was your concern, and where are you at now, 3-4 weeks in?
Well, the first thing I need to say about Strictly, not Ellie, is I don't watch it. I find it a difficult program to watch anyway. It's not my scene, Strictly Come Dancing. Sue, my wife, she does watch it. She enjoys it, and so on and so forth. So I know that I'm in a minority because it's a very popular program. A lot of people watch it. So I would say that straight up front. My worry was about exploitation. I was worried that Ellie might be exposed to all sorts of things that she might be opened up for. Now, that Ellie is a very strong person. I know that. We see how she works and so on. But that was really what it was about. I was really worried that she would be, I felt maybe very paternalistic, I guess. I just thought she's going to be clickbait. This is going to go horribly, I thought. I haven't really followed what has happened, although I do know from what I've seen that some of that has happened to her. She has had quite a lot of vile social media stuff happening, which is very sad, actually.
So I'm going to move it away from Ellie personally, because I think that's not so relevant, except that she's amazing that she's done it, and bloody hell, to have the guts or the gumption to say I'm going out and doing
she's clearly very good at it. I mean, I've seen clips of her dancing and with her partner, and it's incredible. I mean, so anyway.
I mean, people with dwarfism, we're generally pretty hot dancers.
Well, I know they're athletes. I know
yeah.
In the pistol shooting, different class.
Just to clarify, I made that up, everybody. That's a generalization that I made up. Okay, it's a couple of points. When we first spoke, you were slightly more full on. You were saying she's going to be used for entertainment. Everyone's going to laugh at her. The show will exploit her for comedic value, which I obviously took offense on 2 levels. One, that Strictly would do that. Because, I mean, we have had John Sargent and we have had Anne Widdecombe, who were not great dancers, slightly larger people, and they did become comedic. Absolutely. I just think with the disability bit, I couldn't see Strictly ever doing that. I also thought it was very 1970s, which upset you because I kept saying 70s. Here's the flip side, which I have with 3-4 weeks in now. Most of the stuff I've seen online is very positive. And I've seen people talk articulately about this better than I could. There's been a few negatives. There's slight difficulty with that, and forgive me, everyone involved. The media picks up on that, then they repeat it all, and then it's even bigger. And actually, it wasn't that big in the first place. It's people going, "Oh, the show's too woke. The show's gone over the line now." Yeah. Here's the thing that I've realized with this. I've had this debate with a few people. Essentially, if we go along with the concerns, either clickbait, humor, yada yada, people like me will never be on the TV because it's too much for people to cope with. So we actually give in to the people who are narrow-minded or haven't exposed themselves. There's a brilliant guy who was on Strictly last year. I think his name's James. He's a gay man. And he says the last years he was with a gay partner and they played it down. They stayed quite macho. The disabled person, it wasn't too visible. They didn't play up with it. This year, we've got a really physically different person who's shorter. We've also got a gay and a straight man dancing together, and they're playing with this. There's almost camp and different stuff going on, and the public are going, whoa. So it's a kind of I don't mind you doing diversity so long as you don't ram it down my throat. I just want it in a nice package that's comfortable. And Strictly is not doing that this year. They are saying, to hell with it, let's go for it. The gumption, I don't know if I'd have the gumption to do that because it takes a lot of strength. So far, she's going to fail or succeed on the ability of her dancing. There hasn't been the weird stuff, but maybe you got to watch one. And you said you've seen a few clips and stuff.
Seen clips of Ellie. I mean, I'm obviously interested in what happens with her, and I can see that she's got talent in the dance area, and clearly she works incredibly hard with her partner to do what they do.
Yeah,
I think going back to our conversation in the garden, I think my knee jerk reaction, which is what it was, we were having a spontaneous conversation at the time. The cynical bit of me was, it's about viewing figures. I don't care what program it is. It's about viewing figures. And the more outrageous we can make it, the more people will watch. So, these shows that are now on TV that I would never have dreamed would make airtime. The Rue, the dressing up as, what they call it?
RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah, a Drag Race TV. I've seen clips of that, and I thought, what is going on with this? What is this about? It's about entertainment, and it's about viewing. And I think what's happening over the years that certainly I've watched it, the desperation to get people to watch certain things means we get more and more outrageous. So that, in a sense, what I was feeling was, the more Strictly can find difference that may well provoke big debate, and in an equality space, two gay men dancing, absolutely, what would be wrong with that? Nothing at all. But if they become figures of fun or in some way are being used, and that's what I was saying to you in the garden, it wasn't, I just felt that's what was a danger. And what you're saying is, actually, that hasn't really happened. There's been really positive feedback about what they've been doing across all the genre things, like gay people and so on. I believe there's a very large woman on, isn't there, with a same-sex partner too. Am I right about that?
I don't know, but maybe.
I saw a clip of maybe it was different. But anyway, the point I'm making is that my fears from what you're saying are unfounded, which is good. Which is good.
But I think you're mixing two things up. There are certain shows that, because they've got to keep going, there people start getting naked, or they'll start doing more outlandish things because they think, oh, I'm going to get a few more people. Unfortunately, we see that in social media. People want more attention, so they get more and more outrageous. But I want to use that word outrageous. What is outrageous about having someone with dwarfism on the show? What is outrageous about having a gay and a straight man dancing on the show? I don't think that's outrageous. I just think that's progressive.
And I agree with you. I don't think it's outrageous either. What I'm saying is that if you look at Strictly when Brucey was doing it, it's a very different show. It's a very different show in terms of contestants, at least. And the judges, they get more larger than life. It's this kind of, what can we do next time to keep or attract? Now, if what they're saying is, we're underrepresenting gay people, for example, we want more gay people watching the show, etc., then yes, bringing gay people into that makes sense. I get that. That's what we've all been doing. I want to see wheelchair users in Coronation Street for the same reasons.
I don't want Ellie or someone who has a difference to be on the show so I can see it. I mean, I know that the line is, oh, I never saw it as a kid. And I mean, poor children with dwarfism now, we're bloody overrepresented. There's way too many of us on the screen. They're popping up everywhere. My bit is, I want to educate the numbnuts who have not seen it. So but unfortunately, and I know you're not like this, but your phrase of it's very different to Bruce's day, that's exactly what the shallow stuff's going on. They're like, it's not how I like it. You've changed it, and I liked it how it was.
I'm aware that I'm turning Hancock or somebody, or Alf Garnett or somebody like that.
Yeah.
but I'm genuinely concerned. I think television is a really powerful medium.
But you're mixing two things. So, because, okay, if you follow that argument, Strictly stays with same-sex couple, straight, different sex couples, never has disability, never has diversity, because that's not going to take the risk. You're mixing up thinking they've done this to get more numbers to watch it. They're doing it because they need to stay relevant and up to date, and it's about entertaining, informing, and educating the audience. It's not
There's a
just
very thin line, isn't there, Simon, between educating and voyeurism. I mean, what I'm seeing in some ways is the more outrageous the physical, and I'm not talking about Ellie, I'm talking about shows that go further and further and further, push the bound. Now, if they're pushing the boundaries to be inclusive, that's a different commentary to chasing figures. When I was talking,
but you don't seem to be distinguishing. I don't think you can distinguish the two in your head. You're saying they're doing this for numbers because they just want to keep changing.
No, I'm saying there's a danger that that's what's going on. I have no evidence that it is. I'm just saying, when we spoke about this initially, my worry was that that Ellie might be put in a position whereby she becomes the kind of focal point for not the right reasons.
But the fear is, or my concern is, if you follow your, I've said this, if you follow your argument through, I will never appear on television because it's too risky. You're being old school disabled. I'm grateful for what you've given me, Governor, but I won't ask for anything more.
No, I think in the context of Strictly, of course, it's a very specific thing. It's about dancing. If small people are never seen in a shop or never in a play or never, because small people are in shops and they do live lives and they do get married and they do stuff. If that's not portrayed, then clearly there's something wrong with it. But this is an entertainment show that's specifically about dancing. It's not about, so the inclusion of small people in dancing, absolutely. But what I'm saying is that it doesn't necessarily work to say, well, if I can't be on that, I can't be anywhere. I shouldn't be anywhere, because actually most of the time, what you and I have talked about is disabled people being to be seen like other people. We're not, we're not exceptional. We're not courageous. We're not all that stuff.
So different people should be only on some shows. Is that what you're saying, but not others?
I'm not saying that either. You can try all you like. What I'm saying is that I think,
as long as it's safe, as long as it's not risky.
Let me say, I think one of the questions, now Sue watches, one of the questions Sue raised was, how is it physically going to work? Ellie is very short and her partner is not short. How is that actually going to work with some of the lifts and the moves and the steps and so on? Now, you watch it from that point of view, they do a bloody good job of dealing with that issue. Yeah. They're good. They're a good couple. They dance well. Whether she'll win or not is another matter, but she's doing all right.
That's legitimate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfectly legit. And bearing in mind her dance partner, Nikita, generally likes to have his shirt open or off. She's, she's faced with his stomach every time she dances. Yeah. If he can, I adore both of them. I think they found some sort of combination. I think that's a perfectly legitimate question, because that's a bit like employment, service provision. Okay, we're going to do this. How do we do this to make sure it works for you? And we don't know until we've tried it. And the whole point of that is, I want to do this. I just want to know how to do it differently, rather than this is too difficult.
It goes back to, I mean, keeping it really simple. What Ellie has demonstrated is that it's perfectly possible for small people to dance brilliantly with normal sized people or average sized people, as well as with people of their own size. So that's one thing. The deaf girl who was on before,
Rose,
demonstrated that it's possible to dance if you can't hear music. There is rhythm and so now, and I think she was intriguing because a lot of the audiences, I think, who watched her said, how's she doing that? She can't hear the music, so how does she know when to move? They're technical questions which I think Strictly answered. It's in front of you. She's doing it, so it's possible.
I find this interesting, and it goes back to James, the contestant on last year, who was the same year as Rose. The numbnuts, if they wanted to, could have said, Strictly's gone woke. Blooming, how can you have a deaf person who can't hear the music even dance? But because Rose was not visible,
was very subtle, had a little bit of sign language. We all love that. It wasn't too much for the numbnuts. Ellie physically different, and they're like, whoa, can't cope with it, can't cope. But
no, I get that, and I see what you're saying. I make the points well made. Wheelchair users, it's been long the case. I find it difficult to watch wheelchair users do dancing. I've never liked it. It just makes me, oh God. But the idea, and I've certainly watched in awe of wheelchair users dancing with non-wheelchair user partners, doing all sorts of extraordinary things. People on crutches dancing in most phenomenal ways. I admire. It all goes back to me feeling, it was paternal. I was feeling, oh God, I hope she's not, put through some kind of awful ringer here.
The catch with that, and I have that questioning myself, because if I go to the shops, I will get put through the ringer by 12 to 16-year-old boys.
Yeah.
Now, what do I do? Stay in?
No.
Just get deliveries? I can't. I get some drunken idiot who gets excited. I can't not do this, and it upsets me that some people feel that they have to, or that we've still got this daft people in the population. I hope it is a challenge what Ellie's doing in terms of the pure dance. She has a different shaped body, and that presents its own challenges.
Because it's incredibly vigorous.
I mean, she's an athlete, though. I mean, she gets up at bloody 5 a.m., goes to bed at upper state, doesn't drink or smoke. I mean, she's a blooming angel, isn't she? So,
what kind of life is that? Is that really
boring? I need to give a shout out to Stopgap Dance, who I'm part of. They are an inclusive dance company, and they have all sorts of different type of disabilities and people with different conditions, as well as non-disabled dancing alongside. They do this so beautifully. They do it so amazingly. They do it so creatively. And you said a strong thing. And I think that whole mirror image that we have, if you're not used to seeing wheelchair users dance, if you're not used to seeing people with dwarfism move around a dance floor, and you have that, it can make you flinch a bit, because it reminds you of what everybody else sees. And half of you's proud, and the other half of you's wincing a little bit, because you're like, I don't know where to go with this. It doesn't. And I think like a not disabled person occasionally, so it's a challenge. I totally get that. I think lots of us have that. I think lots of us, when we're faced with the same thing in our face, it challenges us. But I'm more of the, it's enlightening and it's amazing, and if I am a bit old school, I like being challenged on that.
I think I don't disagree with that. I think there is a need. We do need to have our comfort zones pushed and probed. There are many people. I think if Ellie is, by doing what she's doing, is lessening the chances of 16-year-olds sitting in newsagent shops baiting small people, then she's done a tremendous thing. If that's what happens, showing a light on things, exposing things like that, I think. The audience is watching, their comfort zones are being pushed a little further. They're a little bit more tolerant than they were before, because they actually like Ellie. She's brilliant at what she's doing, and that in itself is a good thing. So my initial feeling, and to some degree still is, that I was feeling a bit protective rather than the desire for strictly to put different people in front of us, because that they've been doing for a while. I do accept that, and some of that's great. I mean, gay men dancing try doing that 15 years ago.
It's interesting, the protective bit, because is that allyship that you care, or is it misplaced? And if someone starts protecting you when you're out and about in the car park, you go ballistic.
It's about several things. One is, I've met her, I like her, she's great. I'm old enough to be her granddad, so some of it's granddad. Some of it is that I know when you put your head above certain parapets, people shoot it off, and you've experienced that yourself. So I feel protective in that way, and that's not parental. That's ally. Yeah, that's ally. I don't want her to get smashed up because just trying to change the way we think of things.
The word on the street, she's been asked several times. She's turned them down until she's retired. So this isn't strictly suddenly going, let's go whiz bang wacky. No. This is, she's been asked loads of times. One last little surprise for you. I hadn't mentioned it before, but I did speak to the people who make Strictly, and they've said next year, you and I could be a couple on Strictly.
So what a lovely moment this is for all the listeners.
I think visibly disabled people need exposure
Yeah.
on that show. I'm getting a bit annoyed.
My fear is the exposure and the ridicule that you're going to get from me. I'll be tweeting, Phil can't dance for toffee.
I tell you what, I can't wait to try and lift you and chuck you across a couple of rooms. I think that might be fun.
Oh, my life. I think that will be the last.
You're on Strictly. I like it.
It will be the last series. With Phil and Simon closing the show. Can you imagine?
Oh dear. Anyway, good luck to Ellie, I say. I hope she wins.